Welcome to the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC on ESPN 72, Dolidze versus Hernandez, also known as UFC Vegas 109. I'm your host, Ben Duffy of Sherdog.com. With me, as usual, is Keith Shillan, the executive producer of the Sherdog Radio Network. Keith, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, brother. I love we're going to ask each other how we're doing. And we're going to pretend like we haven't been talking to each other off air for the last 20 minutes. This is actually one of the longer ones that we've done where a lot of times we just go right into the recap. We just go right into it. We don't really have time to talk, but sometimes the preview show we do. I'm excited. This is good. I actually think this is a pretty solid card that we have here for a fight night. Some of our favorite fighters are on this card. So I'm excited. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, it's this is, of course, the third of 3 Apex cards in a row between UFC 318 and 319. On paper, none of the 3 has been off the charts amazing. This one's about as good as any of the others, but I am cautiously looking forward to this one more than the others. And hey, maybe that's promising considering that last weekend's UFC Vegas 108 ended up having a couple of fight of the year candidates on it, some gnarly individual action. So if this is an entertaining kind of last meal before we head off for UFC 319, I think that's about the best we can ask of this one. There are only 11 fights on this card.
Yeah, so the thing that stands out to me between this week and last week is just the title implications that we have. I mean, obviously we have Steve Erceg, who recently fought for the title. We have, the winner of Dolidze and Hernandez is, maybe one more win away from a title shot. You got, then you get some prospects like Lucindo coming up and Matsumoto and Leroy Duncan. And we had to get a little debate on who the real Duncan is. And then you obviously have your favorite, Stoliarenko. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I give this card like a C. I think it's a solid, it's not crazy Apex, but I really get a C.
Yeah, I'm with you. I might even give it a C+. I'm not sure. I'll be more excited about this card by the time we're done talking about it, because that's what happens pretty much every time. If you are watching this and you're familiar with our previews at all, you know that it is Keith's policy, his practice, not to look at betting odds before the preview. And so I will sometimes spring them on him, getting him to guess who's the favorite when the lines are close, or getting him to guess what the line is when there's an obvious favorite. And that usually gives us some fun times. This is one of the more lopsided UFC cards ever on the books. There are 11 fights. There is only one fight on the entire card with a favorite that is minus 250 or less.
Oh, wow.
I would love you to guess which it is.
Well, as soon as you said, the main event really jumps out to me, but I'm not going to go. Let me just scan over the card real quick, because right now I'm thinking the main event. Oh man, there's a couple of them. Okay. I'm going to go one of the – I see there's 3 that jumping out to me right now. I'm looking at Cachoeira versus Edwards as a really close one, I think, on the line. I'm thinking Lucindo could be really close. That's Lucindo?
Keith Shillan nails it. There are 11 fights on this card. There's only one fight on the entire card that, as of right now, the favorite is less than minus 250. It is Iasmin Lucindo over Angela Hill. Very good job, Keith.
So that means I feel like you gave away who the favorite is in the main event, which is, I could be wrong, because listen, I can figure out murders. I can figure out some serious crimes. I don't know jack shit about betting lines. I am always so off. I'm assuming that dog and our boy Hernandez, and they haven't got on the hype train yet. So I'm assuming he must be a big underdog. And all right, I hope he is the underdog.
We'll see about it when we get there. Keith, of course, solves murders by day. That is his day job.
Not every day.
Now, not every day, but obviously, murder as a legal definition requires certain things. It requires intent. So there shouldn't be any murders on this card. There might be some man and woman slaughters. We got some mismatches here. Uh, outside of the main event, what is the one matchup on this card that you would wrap in bubble wrap and make sure it makes it through the octagon doors?
Oh, that's a really, really good man. So you ready to be shocked by my pick? I want. Oh no, I can't do it. I was gonna say Hill and Lucindo. I'm actually into that fight. Uh, I'll go. I'm gonna go Hill and Lucindo. I don't know why. No, I'm not. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go the other one. I'm gonna go with Cachoeira and Edwards. I'm interested in that one.
I don't hate either of those. And you and I are both on record as it's nothing personal, but we're kind of done previewing Angela Hill fights. We've previewed like literally 15 of them. Yeah.
Kevin Holland is another guy that I'm like kind of just sick of looking at Kevin Holland. Honestly, Eryk Anders is one I'm kind of done with, and he's on this card. That's why I didn't pick him. I'm interested in Duncan, but like Anders, I'm kind of done with.
For me, I like both the women's fights you named. This is going to sound funny, but one that I'm actually kind of low-key excited for is Miles Johns versus John Matsumoto. I don't want to preview that fight, but I have the feeling that's the kind of fight where if you have not jumped off the Miles Johns bandwagon entirely yet, you're going to be really, really frustrated because it's going to be a fight that he could win, even if he doesn't, and it's going to be real obvious to everybody.
I have a pretty strong take on that fight coming up, so that's why I didn't pick that one.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that one in just a little bit. Unless you have any other general thoughts on this card, we'll jump right into these prelims.
No, let's do it.
First up at UFC Vegas 109 is a women's flyweight matchup between Gabriella Fernandes and Julija Stoliarenko. Fernandes, the 31-year-old Brazilian, is 10-3 overall. She's 2-2 in the UFC since joining as the outgoing LFA flyweight champ. She's on a 2-fight win streak. She dropped her first 2 fights in the UFC. Since then, both of her appearances of 2024 ended up with her hand raised, including a split decision win over Carly Judice in June, and then a second-round technical submission of Wong Kong in November at UFC Macau. So she'll be looking to build on that momentum against Stoliarenko, who is still just trying to keep her head above water in this division. 32-year-old Lithuanian, 11-8-2 overall, 2-6 across 2 separate stints in the UFC. She is 2-5 this time around, but for what it's worth, has actually gone from losing all of her fights to alternating wins and losses recently. She is coming in off a loss. It's been over a year since the last time we saw her. She got TKO'd with less than 10 seconds left on the clock by Luana Carolina at UFC Fight Night Dolidze versus Imavov last February. So been on the shelf ever since with a variety of injuries, other issues. She's back here. She needs a win. She is not favored to get it, decidedly not, as Fernandes is one of the massive favorites on this card that I alluded to. She is minus 400, Stoliarenko plus 325 coming back. I'll say this. I understand why Fernandes is a favorite. I understand why she's a big favorite, because both of these women are better than they looked a year and a half ago. But Fernandes is actually starting to look kind of halfway decent, and Stoliarenko is still just barely hanging in there against mid-level flyweights. But having said that, there are certain elements of this style matchup that point to a path to victory for Stoliarenko. Because if you look at Fernandes, her first 2 fights in the UFC, she got absolutely trucked by women that took advantage of her terrible takedown defense. Jasmine Jasudavicius, she kind of gets a pass. Jasudavicius is a top 10, going on top 5 fighter. She's big. She's a great wrestler. But Teresa Bleda is not a great wrestler, and Fernandes made her look like one. Bleda took her down in all 3 rounds pretty easily, spent time on top. Just, it wasn't close. Since then, she's fought 2 people that just wanted to stand up with her. So we know that Fernandes can beat strikers like Judice and Wong. Now she's back in there with a woman in Stoliarenko who is a very tricky submission artist, and her problem thus far, whether at bantamweight or at flyweight, has been she's kind of slow and plodding on the feet. And while she's a good submission artist, she is a terrible takedown artist, which leads to her doing stuff like basically falling to guard and trying low percentage arm bars and leg locks and crap. There is a possibility that Stoliarenko just bowls Fernandes over and is slapping on an armbar from mount in 90 seconds. I'm not picking that. Fernandes, I think she does look better in a way that can't be accounted for just by the different matchmaking she's had in the last year. Like, I still don't think she beat Jasmine Jasudavicius if they fought again today, but she might beat Teresa Bleda. She seems physically just quicker and stronger. She seems more confident, more comfortable, a better idea of what she wants to do in the cage. Because of that, I'm not picking Stoliarenko to pull off the massive upset here. But if she does it, it shouldn't feel like a plus 325 shocker, because there is a direct route to victory for her. Assuming that doesn't happen, Stoliarenko, at the very least, she's been tough as nails. I mean, until the Carolina fight, she hadn't been stopped on strikes. She's a willing striker who throws good volume on the feet. I think she'll at least keep Fernandes busy and just be on the wrong end of kind of a lopsided decision, and that's my pick. Just Fernandes probably wins his 30-27.
Stoliarenko is the worst fighter that I have just let this like warm spot in my heart for. I mean, I'll say this: she's not good, but she can be fun. Now, she's obviously a terrible athlete, especially on the feet, very flat-footed. But she has good output. I said before, she reminds me of like a herky-jerky Keith Jardine style like striker, very wild with looping power shots. She has some pop. I mean, she's a thick woman. She's got she keeps her base on anybody. She throws shots. She wants to march forward and land shots. She likes to get in the pocket and brawl. She wants to be one moving forward. She couldn't handle when she was pressured on. She kind of got bullied against Chelsea Chandler. She throws a lot of kicks. She doesn't care if you try to grab her leg. She needs to improve her defensive striking, though. She drops her hand. She doesn't move her head. She can close the distance and grind well in the clinch. But again, someone who's stronger, like a Yana Kunitskaya, who's good in the clinch, she struggled and got out-muscled. She does have some good dirty boxing. You mentioned it, though. Like, it's all about trying to bull her and get her opponent down. I mean, she'll look for takedowns from the outside. She'll shoot, get stuck on anything, just like pull guard. She is a good grappler. I mean, that's her base. She's a BJJ. She's obviously very comfortable on her back. She's one to like pull guard and Minari roll. If she gets on top, she quickly passes position. The problem is she won't grind on top. She's looking for a finish. You mentioned she's like an armbar specialist. She's going to go for all positions. She showed terrible fight IQ when she was in the mount against Chelsea Chandler and tried an armbar and then got the piss beat out of her because of it. If she does get the fight if I will say this, for someone who kind of fights like Berserker, she'll go hard all 15 minutes if it lasts that long. Now, Fernandes, obviously a much cleaner fighter than Stoliarenko. She's southpaw. She's also like long and lanky. She's a kickboxer. I say she's a good striker, good output on the feet, fast hands. She's accurate. A lot of variety in her striking. Very technical. She cuts angles well, sets up her shots well. She generates power because when she steps into her shots, she mixes punches and kicks together in combinations, which I like. Big kicking game, kind of throws kicks anywhere. Because she's bigger, she could use her size well in the clinch. I don't know if that's something she's going to want to do against Stoliarenko. If I was her, I'd try to avoid the clinch at all course, but it is a position that she's done pretty well in the past. She will look for takedowns, but I would say she kind of struggles to get the fight to the ground, and she's a terrible defensive wrestler. But if she's taken down, she can hit some subs off her back. She has a few subs on her record. And well, she beat Carly Judice, and that was a quality win. And obviously, Wayne Kong is another good one. She gassed out a little bit in the Judice fight. I call the massive upset when Stoliarenko beat Molly McCann. I really want to do it. I agree with everything you said about there is an avenue of victory, especially with Fernandez's like weak defensive wrestling. I want to say Stoliarenko takes her down. I want to say Stoliarenko does what Stoliarenko does. She goes for an armbar, but Fernandes finds a way to get out of it. I say Fernandes in the exchange, like gets it back to the feet, and in the exchanges, she makes her pay. She beats her up every single time she has any distance. Does Stoliarenko make the distance? I say she will. Give me Fernandes by decision.
All right. Medic versus Urbina.
Dude, I want to be wrong about that fight. Like, I want Stoliarenko because if she wins, it's fun.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. Yeah. And because she never wins, like, I always forget how good her English is. Like, all she needs is to be a little bit better fighter, and she'd be a delight. But yeah.
This is like Michael Bisping's going to walk in and call for a translator.
Welterweights take the cage next at UFC Vegas 109 as Uros Medic faces off against Gilbert Urbina. Medic, the 32-year-old Serbian-American, is 10-3 overall. He's 4-3 since joining the UFC out of Season 4 of Dana White's Contender Series. He is 2-2 since moving up to welterweight. He came to the UFC as a lightweight with mixed results, but moved up and, again, 2-2 since then. He's coming in off a loss. He fought most recently back in January, where he made it just 31 seconds before getting clocked by Puna Soriano. He'll be looking to bounce back from that against Urbina. 29-year-old from Texas's Rio Grande Valley is 7-3 overall, 1-2 since joining the UFC as an ad hoc finalist of the 29th season of The Ultimate Fighter. He was eliminated in the semifinals on the show, but when one of the finalists had to withdraw, he stepped up and fought Brian Battle in the finale. He lost that, but he went on to beat Orion Kosi in his second UFC appearance, came back in his third, and got knocked out by Charlie Radke. That's the bad news. The other bad news is that was almost a year and a half ago. He has been on the shelf ever since. He's back in the cage looking for his second UFC win. He is not favored to get it done. Yet another massive favorite on this card. Medic is minus 400, Urbina plus 300. I get this. Medic is not a perfect fighter. I think we've probably already kind of seen his ceiling in the UFC. He was a huge lightweight. He's still a pretty good sized welterweight, has a ton of power, but he's kind of stiff. Just even though he's a good striker, it just always looks a little awkward. He has some defensive lapses, and after the Soriano fight, there's no guarantee that his chin can carry him through those lapses. He should beat Urbina here, even though Urbina's came down from 185 and Medic moved up from 155. They're going to be about the same size in the cage. Medic hits way harder. Medic isn't a good defensive wrestler, but if he wants to get Urbina down as an offensive wrestler, I think he probably can. Yeah, I think this might be all it wrote for Gilbert Urbina in the UFC. He will always have the trivia question cachet as one of the first ever trio of brothers all to fight in the UFC, but the trio of brothers between them are something like 2-11 or something like that. It's not going to get better on Saturday. I think Medic probably knocks Urbina out in the first round.
It's like one of those like staples of like WWF wrestling. They have like brothers, but they also it's like the bushwhackers of the of the WWF, the Urbina brothers.
Oh, no, I didn't know until I was an adult that Randy Macho Man Savage and Leaping Lanny Poffo were brothers in real life.
Yeah,
because Randy Savage was of course a massive. One of the biggest stars. Leaping Lanny was, he was a jobber. He was a jobber with a gimmick, but they were literal real life brothers. But yeah,
and then you see him and you're like, how did I not catch that?
It was like the big old Oakley Blades sunglasses, like it disguised it.
That's all it took.
Yeah.
The worst is like, how many times did he have to hold the camera for somebody when they're meeting his brother? Like, yeah, I'll take a picture for you. Or the Macho Man's like, oh, let's get my brother in here, and he's like, okay, thanks, Randy. Right, yeah. Or like moms make you take a picture with your brother, kind of thing. This fight. I mean, what does Medic do? He's a southpaw. He's a huge welterweight, long and lengthy. He's a very high volume striker, kickboxer. He's constantly on the gas and can be reckless, though recently he's been a little bit more relaxed. My favorite fight of his is I think it was his first fight in the UFC. I put this in my notes and I'm not taking it out. Is when he fought Alon Cruz, and I was like, he came out like a berserker, and I'm like, the fight was over before Cruz even knew it started. He's a solid striker, especially from distance. Like I go back to like the Matthew Semmelsberger fight, he was keeping him at the end of the punches. Same with Omar Morales. He's pretty accurate because when he gets really aggressive, he's going to eat a lot of shots. He got smashed by Jalen Turner. He just recently got smashed by Puna Soriano. That's going to happen. Some of it is he backs straight up when he's trying to avoid strikes. He'll throw some spinning attacks. He'll do like some Alexander Semenko type stuff. He knocked out Matthew Semmelsberger with an incredible spinning elbow. But against Omar Morales, he was much more conservative. He's shown really big power in the past. He blasted Tamines. He loves push kicks, kind of forces opponents on the back foot. His kicks can be dangerous to him because he'll throw them without setting up. But he's also like crushed guys. Like go back to the Jamaican Rose fight, he crushed him with a body kick. Similar to Tamines, he will follow his strikes and get in the pocket where he beat up Means with some nasty uppercuts inside. He doesn't wrestle much, and his defense wrestling is really bad. He struggles to get back up to his feet, but he does have a good submission game. He attacks like knee bars and heel hooks. Urbina, dude, there's not a lot of stuff I like about this guy. He switches stances a lot. He does have good volume. His hands, fairly fast hands. He's got some pop, but he keeps his hands. He keeps his hands low. He keeps his chin high. He'll throw a lot of kicks, but he'll throw them without any setups. A lot of kicks from distance that really just one kick, no setup. He will look for takedowns, but he's not really great at it. He does have a few subs on his record, but I don't think he catches Medic. I'm glad that Medic is this big fake because I'm like, he's gonna freaking maul. I think he starches Urbina. You know what? I never take a prop bet. I'm gonna do it now. Give me Medic by stoppage. Make that my lock of the night. We'll do it early. Give me Medic by stoppage.
I'm completely on board with that. What round you got?
I'm gonna say it does in the first round. I'm not betting that, like just a stoppage for my prop bet, but that's my lock.
Women's bantamweights are up next at UFC on ESPN 72 as Joselyne Edwards faces off against Priscila Cachoeira. Edwards, the 29-year-old Panamanian, is 15-6 overall. She is 6-4 in the UFC, and she is on a 2-fight win streak. She fought most recently back in April at UFC on ESPN Gary versus Prates, where she knocked out Chelsea Chandler in the first round. Prior to that, she face-cranked Tamiris Vidal late in the third round of their matchup last October. So she's looking for her third straight win in the UFC. She will need to get past Cachoeira to do it. Cachoeira, 36-year-old Brazilian, is 13-6 overall. She is 5-6 in the UFC. She's coming in off a win. She fought in March at UFC Fight Night Vittori versus Dolidze, where she knocked out Josiane Nunes in the first round. Cachoeira is in for Mayra Bueno Silva. Edwards had been scheduled to fight Mayra Bueno Silva. Silva dropped out about 2 weeks ago, so it'll be 3 weeks from that Cachoeira steps up here. Odds possibly reflecting that have Edwards as a comfortable favorite. She's minus 300. Cachoeira's plus 250. Keith, let me know how you see this one playing out.
I'm
pretty sure that Edwards would not have been a favorite against Mayra Bueno Silva. So
no,
yeah,
probably maybe not. But I don't know if she should be this big of a favorite against Cachoeira. I mean, I'm the biggest Joselyne Edwards fan in the world, so I think I'm her only fan. I mean, obviously the biggest standout by Edwards, obviously she's so long and lanky. She's super inconsistent. She looks great one fight. She looks bad on this. Recently, she looks pretty good though. She's a kickboxer, great volume on the feet, fast hands. I've said it before, they come from her hips. She kind of hangs them low, so it's gonna be hard to see them coming in. She's got a good jab. She attacks with combinations. She can load up on her strikes a little bit too much, but she does have power. I mean, she showed knockout power against Chelsea Chandler, which is something she really hasn't had before. She got a great kicking game, blast kicks to the legs, the head, teep kicks up the middle. She does like oblique kicks. She can make the mistake of throwing naked leg kicks, which is an issue. She also avoids strikes by pulling her head straight back. She will use her size really well in the clinch, throwing knees up like super easy, like slicing elbows inside. She recently has been adding takedowns, which is nice to see. It was never part of her game. But I still wouldn't call her a wrestler, though. I mean, like, but it has improved since the day she was throwing like headlocks against Nora Connell. So, and missing them. Doesn't have the best top game. She's a bad defensive wrestler. She struggles to get back to her feet. She does make the mistake of looking for subs off her back, which you know how I feel about that. But she does have 4 subs, so I'll give her credit for that. But she's taken a lot of damage. I mean, Eileen Perez hurt her a lot in that fight, or hurt her bad in the fight. Cachoeira, I'm leaving this in my notes forever. I'm going to keep leaving notes every time we talk about Cachoeira. I just want to point out that Cachoeira shouldn't be in the UFC after illegally eye gouging Jillian Robertson multiple occasions. I'll never let that go. She is a pressure striker, constantly moving forward and taking the ground. She loves the pocket brawl. She gets inside. She unloads big blows. There's some mean hooks. She can load up a lot and get really wild. And sometimes she just acts like a berserker and just ducks and swings. She can crack, though. She has power. I mean, she has a bunch of KOs in the UFC just by pressure and landing big shots. She doesn't care about defense. She keeps her hands really wide. Sometimes she'll just drop them completely, and she'll keep her chin high in the air. Now, she can sneak in some takedowns, but I wouldn't call her a wrestler. But if she has to fight the ground, I like her. I like her top game. It's not bad. Now, she's a bad defensive wrestler, and she struggles to get back to her feet. But she's already shown in the UFC she'll take a beating, and she will not give up. I think this line is off. Cachoeira's pressure can be a problem. That said, her striking defense is so bad. I see Edwards landing shots as she starts coming in. I can see some teep kicks up the middle. I can see Edwards clinching when Cachoeira closes the distance. Like I said, Cachoeira is super tough. I don't see her getting stopped, but give me Edwards by decision.
I see this fight pretty similarly to you, where I do think the style matchup favors Edwards, but kind of like I said in the opener, I'm nervous about a line that wide because there is a pretty clear route to victory for the underdog here. Edwards, she's come a little ways since she had maybe the worst takedown defense in the whole UFC, but she's not come that far. It is still a liability, and we know at least what's going to happen. Cachoeira is going to come straight at her on straight lines, swinging big shots, and if she sees an opportunity, either because she rings up Edwards or gets rung up a little bit, she's probably going to try to bowl her over for a takedown. If she gets it, that round might be over. I'm still leaning Edwards. Just as you mentioned, Cachoeira's striking defense is terrible. Edwards is going to be kicking her legs, kicking her body, meeting her with long, straight punches down the middle. I think this makes it to the final horn, and I think it's entirely possible that Cachoeira does win a round, just either by catching Edwards with a haymaker on the feet or taking her down early enough in a round and just making her life miserable. But give me Edwards to pick up the decision here. Young bantamweights take the cage next at UFC Vegas 109 as Elijah Smith squares off with Toshiomi Kazama. Smith, the 22-year-old Colorado native, is 8-1 overall. He's 1-0 since joining the UFC out of Season 8 of Dana White's Contender Series. He made his UFC debut in February at UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Rodriguez, where he won a unanimous decision over Vince Morales. He will look to make it 2 in a row in the UFC, 7 in a row overall against Kazama. 28-year-old from Japan is 11-4 overall. He is 1-2 in the UFC, 2-2 if you count his appearance on Road to UFC. I still don't understand why those don't count as UFC fights, but whatever. 1-2 officially. And after losing his first 2 fights in the UFC, he did finally get his first win almost exactly a year ago. His most recent outing was UFC on ESPN Tybura versus Spivak last August, where he triangle choked Pampas Gregorio in the second round. He will look to build on that momentum, probably in the last fight of his deal, so very important one for him. He is not favored to get it done. I believe Smith is the biggest favorite on the whole card, minus 600. Kazama plus 450 coming back. I blame Toshiomi Kazama for Rinya Nakamura's first UFC loss because I think it was Nakamura clocking Kazama in like 30 seconds that turned Nakamura into a bit too much of a headhunter, made him stop wrestling for a fight or two, and ended up netting him a loss. Kazama, it's hard for me to point at exactly what's wrong with him. It reminds me of the Brazilian guy from
Brazil.
The Brazilian guy from Brazil, yes, the one. He's the flyweight from Shooter Box, Diego Lima.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Oh, Daniel Lacerda.
Oh, Daniel Lacerda.
Yeah, Daniel Lacerda, where he was a good-sized flyweight in a vacuum. It looked like he was reasonably athletic. He had all the individual skills, and just it all fell apart every time he fought. Kazama has a little bit of that to me. He's not a big bantamweight, but he's decently sized. He comes off as reasonably athletic. It's hard for me to pinpoint exactly what is wrong with him, but what has lost him his 2 UFC fights so far is that he overswings, doesn't bring his hands back, just big defensive lapses, and it's cost him. And it cost him against a very good fighter in Rini Nakamura, and it cost him against a not that good fighter in Garrett Armfield. So I have to think that Smith is just going to blitz him. Smith isn't a perfect fighter either. Like, he's 22, still learning his craft. I think this same fighter that beat Vince Morales in a decision earlier this year would probably smoke him a year from now. But Smith, with his fast hands, his power, I think he's just going to crush Kazama. If we're going to have a card full of minus 400, minus 500, minus 600 favorites, at least I think we're going to have one full of some quick and nasty finishes. I think this is one of them. Kazama's too willing to engage on the feet, has too many defensive problems, and if nothing else, Smith is going to come right out and try to punch him in the face, and I think he's going to succeed. I have Smith by first round knockout here.
Wow. It's funny. Smith is only 22, and he's already way better than his dad ever was. Which that's not a knock on his dad. I mean, I think that's what all parents want their kids to be better than them. So yes. Good of his dad. 22 years old. I mean, he's at the age. I mean, we could see such a big jump in improvement just from February. It could look like a completely different fighter out there. He was already a tremendous athlete. He's a good striker, very technical on the feet. Though he does hang his hands a little low, he's got quick hands. Works behind a beautiful jab. There's a lot of straight shots down the pike. Good at meeting at the point of contact. He's explosive, really springs into his shots. He's got massive power for a guy his age, and he's years away from reaching it. Like his calf kicks, he's really showed off his striking, but he can wrestle. He's a solid wrestler. He mixes takedowns in well with his striking. Though he does need to set up his setups. He'll kind of just dive in sometimes, but if he gets it, he's got really good hip control. Once the fight hits the ground, he's definitely like a more funk style wrestler. He's good at winning scrambles. He did slow down late in his last fight, but it wasn't like drastic. Something I think he can fix. Kazama, he looked terrible against Garrett Armfield, but he looked a lot better against Gregoria, to his credit. I mean, both guys are very low level UFC guys, so take it for what it's worth. He's a pressure striker on the feet. As you mentioned, he likes to engage. He will brawl. He'll throw a lot of looping punches. He will generate some power because he sits on his punches, but he eats a lot of shots because he doesn't move his head. He has durability issues. He was knocked out in back-to-back UFC fights, and then he was hurt by Gregoria in his last fight. He should look to get the fight to the ground. He has a judo black belt. He's very physically strong. He can wrestle. He likes some upper body throws and some trips. He could shoot from the outside. He's pretty good at winning scrambles. I see him sweep when he's put on his back. Once on top, I like his top game. He'll lace the legs and inch, look like very like Dagestan style. He's got submission, submission wins. He got 6 submission wins, and he's got good cardio. So, this is a test for Smith. Not the highest test. I don't think he should be this big a favorite based on 22. You have those fights where remember when that guy lost to this guy? Remember when that could be that for Smith? But I think he passes it. I think he jabs off Kazama. I think he avoids the ground game. I think he pieces him up on the feet. And Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's gonna catch him. I'm gonna say second. I'm gonna say he starts a little slower and I catches him in the second. Give me Smith by second round TKO.
Up next at UFC Vegas 109, we have no heavyweight fights on this card, but we have the next best thing in an extremely light heavyweight matchup between Julius Walker and Raffael Cerqueira. Walker, the 26-year-old American, is 6-1 overall. He's 0-1 in the UFC. He made his debut at UFC Fight Night Cejudo versus Song back in February, where he dropped a split decision to Alonzo Menafield. He will look to bounce back from that, his first and thus far only career loss against Cerqueira. 35-year-old Brazilian is 11-2 overall. He's 0-2 in the UFC. He made his debut last October at UFC 308, getting knocked out in under a minute by Ivo Aslan. Came back this February at that very same Cejudo versus Song card and got knocked out in 2 minutes by Modestas Bukauskas. So two gentlemen here, undefeated on the regional scene, winless in the UFC. Something's got to give. According to the bookmakers, what's going to give is Cerqueira, as Walker is a massive minus 600 favorite. Cerqueira plus 450 coming back. All right. All credit to Sherdog video contributor, host of the Check the Kick podcast, Devin Tejada, who will always point out to you that light heavyweight is the wild, low fight IQ division, where even the best fighters in the division are these reckless maniacs. This, by that standard, I don't know if these guys are good light heavyweights. I don't know if they're future contenders. I mean, I doubt it, but they are very light heavyweights, because these guys, Walker, I'm not sure that he isn't the American third Walker brother to Johnny and Walter, because he's another one. He is a giant light heavyweight. He's a wild man who, it's not even defense second, it's like defense 10th. Credit to him. In his UFC debut, he managed to pull out a very, very veteran UFC fighter in Alonzo Menafield into a wild, sloppy brawl. Again, credit to him. Menafield has his flaws, he has his ceiling, but he generally is a guy that knows what he wants to do in the cage and kind of sticks to it. And Walker turned that first round in particular and just into this wild slop fest. He hurt Menafield. I mean, he had Menafield trying to take him down for a second. He couldn't carry himself through it. Just once Menafield settled down, Walker wasn't able to land much more really significant offense on him. I thought he rightfully lost that split decision. But you can see that there are certain things that Julius Walker does at a UFC level. And considering that, again, he's 26 years old, which is 5 years from the beginning of the bell curve of his prime and maybe 10 years from the end of it, he has a lot of time to fix this stuff. He has physical tools. He has some skills. And he's just kind of a maniac with terrible fight IQ right now. That's fixable. Or even if he doesn't fix it, he can probably still stick around the Iwan Cutelaba division for a few more years. The problem with Cerqueira is he's also a good size light heavyweight. He also is decently athletic. He has a ton of power. He's aggressive, but he's just not as good. Getting crushed in under a minute by Ivo Aslan it hasn't aged well. I don't think it's going to continue to age well. And Modestas Bukauskas, up a weight class, just zapped him. Yeah, I mean, Cerqueira has a lot of the same problems that Walker does, just walking in, chin up, swinging big, kind of pulling his head straight back. But he doesn't have the offensive firepower to carry that approach, even against low-level UFC light heavyweights, obviously. And at 35 and not quite the same physical tools as Walker, it's not even that he doesn't have the same upside. He has no upside. At risk of sounding like a broken record here, I think Walker crushes him and puts him out of there in the first round. Cerqueira has more upset potential here than he probably did against Aslan or Bukauskas, just because Walker himself is so vulnerable on defense sometimes. And if this thing gets out of the first round, there's always the possibility that they both get tired. Walker kind of loses the plot a little bit, and we end up with a weird split decision where the second and third round are both just really hard to score. But again, I don't think we get there. I think Walker catches Cerqueira with something big in the first round, puts him away. Give me Walker by first round knockout.
Yeah, this fight is bad. So I always ask which fight do we not want to be canceled. If you ask me which fight I want to be canceled, I'd pick this one. Not that I don't think it won't be action, but I've seen people get knocked out. I also want people that are relevant moving up the division. And Cerqueira, I mean, the guy got in the UFC by fighting the lowest level possible. He's a southpaw. He is athletic. I'll give that. He has like this taekwondo style, and he has some power. I mean, he's a big guy, and he throws a lot of kicks. Kicks to the body, a lot of calf kicks. He'll try to get the fight to the ground, but he isn't good at it. He does have a few subs, but I mean, against low-level guys. And I'm worried about his durability, but he was knocked out bad. Walker, I like that he's only 26. He's long and lengthy. He can fight at both stances. His defense, he has like a high guard defense, but I agree with you. His defense is bad. He will throw straight shots. It's weird because he was aggressive in his last fight, but there's times I have seen him like have a little Yoel Romero where he doesn't throw much, kind of waits and waits. So I really don't know. Like, I'm not completely sold on that he's very aggressive, but he does have power, which is good. He throws hard kicks. As far as his defense, he keeps his head straight on the center line. He got clocked a bunch of times by Manfield, and he wasn't reacting to the punches. Well, that was concerning. He can look for takedowns, but his top game is very, very poor. It needs to be improved. His takedown defense is bad. To his credit, he's a big guy. He does pop right back to his feet. He does have 2 subs on his record. He has gassed out in the past, but even though I thought he looked bad and gassed out against Alonzo Manifield, he dug deep at times and maybe won that fight. So Walker, you mentioned, is this massive favorite. I think it speaks more about how bad Cerqueira is instead of how good Walker is. Mm-hmm. I do think Walker is a UFC talent. I don't know if Cerqueira is. Yeah. So I'm with you. I think Walker easily wins. I expect him maybe take Cerqueira down, beat him up on the ground, and maybe subs him. Let's go with a sub. I'll see he catches him late in the first round.
Next up at UFC Vegas 109, and at least as the card is constituted as of the beginning of fight week, the main card opener is a middleweight matchup between Eryk Anders and Christian Leroy Duncan. Anders, the 38-year-old Alabama native, is 17-8 with 1 no contest overall. He is 9-8 with 1 no contest in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight win streak. His first win streak in the UFC in over 5 years. That's the good news. The bad news is that the victims of that win streak were Jamie Pickett and Chris Weidman. The most recent of those, the Weidman fight, was at UFC 310 last December. So he's back in the cage for the first time this year, looking for a 3-fight win streak at the expense of Duncan. 30-year-old Englishman is 11-2 overall. He is 4-2 in the UFC since joining as the outgoing Cage Warriors middleweight champ. He's coming in off a win. He fought most recently at UFC Fight Night Edwards versus Brady, that was UFC London, back in March, where he took a unanimous decision over Andre Pulyaev. He will look to make it 2 in a row here. He is comfortably favored to get it done, as Duncan is minus 500, Anders plus 425. I start from the inverse proposition. If we get the massive upset, what does it look like? I have no idea, because here's the thing. Anders has power.
Sure.
He doesn't have as much power as the UFC booth is going to try to make it sound like.
Yeah.
He doesn't have as much power as it looks like he should from the way he is built and the way it looks when he swings. And in fact, his kicks are more effective than his punches at this point, I think. Agreed. But there are 2 problems. 1, the power is overstated. 2, he just doesn't throw enough. And that is a problem on 2 fronts, because 1, it gives him fewer chances to catch Duncan with something big. And 2, it makes it hard for him to win rounds. It's just, for a guy that is still over 500 in the UFC, I'm less excited about the next Eryk Anders fight than just about anybody I can think of in the promotion. Just his fights have gotten dreadful to watch. There's no element of surprise. You know what you're going to get. I suppose it's a suitable kind of next test for Duncan. What I like about Duncan so far is he came to the UFC as an undefeated, I think it's fair to say, an undefeated phenom type prospect. His highlight reel in Cage Warriors, he came in with a freshly minted Cage Warriors middleweight title and a highlight reel with some flying and spinning stuff. He's a fantastic athlete. You could see stardom on the horizon for this guy if it played out. He's a good looking guy. He's not a huge trash talker, but he's just got that little bit of British chip on the shoulder thing where everything he says is a little bit quotable sounding. It's just all dependent on him going out there and winning enough fights to become a contender. And what I like is, even though he's lost a couple of fights, he looks willing to change his approach. He's realizing on some level that he's not going to be able to spinning wheel kick everybody at the UFC level of competition. And for example, in the Puliaev fight, and this is fresh in my mind because I just watched it because we previewed a Puliaev fight last week, but Duncan facing a fellow striker who's actually taller and rangier than him was willing to kind of fight against type, crowd Puliaev, even, try to take him down, at least to give the kicker something else to think about. I liked the approach. And because of that, because I don't think Duncan's necessarily coming in here to get some sort of highlight reel win at Anders' expense, but just to hold serve, get your hand raised, survive, advance, move on, it makes the upset potential here even less. I think Anders is going to manage to slow this down to an Eryk Anders pace of fight. I don't think there's going to be any question who won any of the 3 rounds. I think Duncan wins 30-27 in a fight that has the potential to be kind of a snoozer. It's not going to be probably a highlight reel type thing, but again, even in slowed down fights, I don't trust Anders to do enough to win close rounds. So yeah, give me Duncan by 30-27 decision, and I'm pretty damn comfortable with it.
Yeah, nothing against Eryk Anders, but at this point, he, like you said, he could still win, but they're kind of boring fights. He's a southpaw, but I'll say this, dude, and this is gonna be a controversial statement, but he's a poor athlete, and I don't give a shit that he played for the University of Alabama football 100 years ago, which is obviously a greater athletic feat than 99.99% of. That playing for the University of Alabama is probably at least equal to reaching the UFC. Mm-hmm. If you're a football player, it might be higher, but he ain't that guy anymore. He's very plodding. His hands are slow. His volume, I'd say, it's been inconsistent, but I would agree that it's on the lower side. He will attack with combos, but the problem is the gap in time between the combos continue to get stretched out longer and longer, and he's very predictable because he'll attack with the same kind of combination. He'll come in with this winging overhand left. You look at him, he obviously has power, but like you mentioned, he's not the puncher. He's not Derek Lewis that they're going to make him sound like. I agree with what you said about his kicks. I think his kicks are probably better. Like his high kick is probably maybe catching a high kick might be his best chance of winning. Defensively, he's still very hittable. I'm worried about his durability. He's taken so much damage over the years in the UFC and then also in football. You say, what's his best avenue for victory? It might be winning a wrestling match. And I think Duncan's an underrated wrestler and he's been wrestling well, but Anders' best part of his game might be his takedowns right now. Maybe Duncan shoots in on him and Anders is able to sprawl on him and get behind him or something like that, and he wins 2 rounds that way. He's a good grappler. He's got some good ground and pound. He's on top. He can still generate strength, and he's going to be hard to take down. He's a big, he understands like getting his base out and big. And Duncan himself is like a super big guy, and he is the opposite of Anders. He is a good athlete, nice footwork. He's a kickboxer. He can work well from distance. He does a lot of hand fighting due to his size to kind of keep his distance. He wants to be the guy to work from space, not being pressured. He's got fast hands. He's accurate. He uses feints to set up his shots well. He will attack with combinations. He likes to get inside and throw uppercuts, which you don't see a lot in MMA. He does have good power. He does well to land elbows when his opponents kind of get too close to him. He'll start looking for slicing elbows. Now, defensively, he has a lot to clean up. He still stands too tall. He keeps his chin too high. He was getting hit way too much by Gregor Rodriguez in that fight. You mentioned his kicks. He's got a big kick game, spinning wheel kicks, teep kicks. So a lot of that. He's been wrestling a lot lately, and honestly, he looks pretty good at it. He's got some good ground and pound. He gets to fight to the ground. He's showed off some good takedown defense, and he showed good submission defense. I mean, he got beat up by Gregor Rodriguez, but he showed good submission defense. I am surprised by the odds, like on first glance, because Anders has been in so many big fights and he still has some life in him. But then as when you really consider how the fight's going to go, I can kind of understand why it's so big. I think at this point in their careers, Duncan is better than Anders, probably, maybe even everywhere. He's obviously much faster. He has better accuracy. He has more output. The wrestling, I think, might be the area that is up for grabs, but it's probably worse equal, and I'm going to guess that he takes down Anders and he actually wins that. So regardless, Anders is tough. I think Anders will make the decision, but give me Duncan by unanimous decision.
Men's bantamweights are up next at UFC on ESPN 72 as Miles Johns faces off against John Matsumoto. Johns, the 31-year-old Kansas native, is 15-3 with one no contest overall. He is 6-3 with one no contest in the UFC. He's coming in off a loss. He fought most recently at UFC on ESPN Covington versus Buckley at the end of last year, dropping a unanimous decision to Felipe Lima. That snapped a 4-fight unbeaten streak for him, so he's looking to get back in the win column here. He will need to get past Matsumoto in order to do so. 25-year-old Brazilian is 16-1 overall. He's 3-1 since joining the UFC out of season 7 of Dana White's Contender Series. He lost his last time out, his first loss in the UFC, his first loss as a professional. It was at UFC Fight Night, Cejudo versus Song, the UFC Macau card back in February, where he dropped a split decision to Rob Font. So he is looking to regain the momentum that had him certified as one of the top prospects in the division. He is favored to get it done. Matsumoto is your favorite at -310, Johns +250 coming back. Keith, I'll flip this one to you. Just tell me how concerned you are by anything you saw in the Font fight, if you still believe in John Matsumoto, and if you think he gets it done on Saturday.
I'm not concerned at all. Actually, this is only 25 years old. I love this kid. I think he's really good. I thought he beat Rob Font. I mean, and worse, it was I think it was a split decision, right?
It was split. Yes.
Yeah.
No, it was split.
It was split. Okay. But it was right there. Like there was an argument for Font to win. I'm not saying that like it was a robbery or anything like that, but there's a lot of stuff I like about this kid. I mean, the thing is, I go back to like Dan Argueta fight where Argueta's trying to pressure him, and he's a young kid, and he was just mentally strong, could handle the pressure for Argueta. He's a Muay Thai striker that's constantly. I think he's years ahead of his game. That's what I'm trying to say. He's a Muay Thai striker that's constantly flowing between his stances, good footwork, moves well, high volume on the feet, really fast hands. He's accurate, works behind a crisp jab. He attacks with combinations, nice 1-2 combos, nice power, and he really isn't in his power years yet. He mixes punches and kicks together well. He throws some hard kicks, targets the thighs instead of the calves, which is kind of like an old school kicker. But they throw a quick high kick up. He fights behind a high guard defense, which pillars, which is probably my big thing about him that I don't like, which will set up John's entries if he's coming high like this, leaving his legs open. But he's a solid wrestler himself. He's got some fast entries. He gets to fight the ground. He's got good control, good ground and pound, good overall grappling BJ. He's got a great guillotine. He has 5 subs on his record. He showed when he got taken down by Dan. He was able to pop right back to his feet quickly. And he's a tough son of a bitch. I mean, the guy ate a lot of shots from run, fought, and didn't stop. And he had really good cardio. Like that was a really high output fight. Miles Johns, I feel like we know what we got with this guy. He's a short, compact wrestler, wrestle boxer, I should say. He throws a lot of feints, but he doesn't throw his strikes enough. He fights at a rather slower pace, especially for this division. I've said it before, he had this ability to kind of like get guys to fight at his pace. And I think some of that has to do with the way he fights. You don't want to get clocked by Johns. When he works behind a jab and then he follows up with hard hooks and uppercuts. He tends to load up on everything. He's constantly trying to chase the one punch KO highlight. He does have power if he connects, so I'll give him that. But he could overthrow his shots, leaving him to be countered or even taken down by lesser wrestlers. He struggles with guys who use a lot of movement and cutting angles because he's like trying to time a moving target with a big bomb. He struggles. He go back to like the Mario Batista fight where he was struggling to pick up the timing of Batista. He throws hard kicks, good calf kicks, but he doesn't check leg kicks himself. He's a good wrestler and he's got some fast entries, good at winning scrambles, very strong. He grabs a leg, he can like go high on like a high crotch takedown and slam you. The problem is he doesn't go to it. He abandoned wrestling in the past. Recently, he was wrestling more, so I thought like, oh, he's going back to his roots, and that was good for him. And then against Felipe Lima, he completely abandoned his wrestling again. So, if he gets the fight to ground, he does have hard ground and pound. He defends takedowns and attacks with like guillotines and barber chokes, which doesn't make sense, but lives opportunity. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense in this why he's getting taken down against weaker wrestlers. But he is hard to hold on to his credit, though he was subbed by John Castaneda, and he's also gassed out in the past. So you said, there's a fight against his performance against Rob Font, make me jump off the bandwagon. No, it just tells me like 3 years from now, if they rematch, Matsumoto's going to destroy Rob Font. I think Matsumoto needs to beat everybody's parlays. I understand he's a big favorite, but figure somehow to bet on this guy because I think he's going to beat the living shit out of Miles Johns. I think Johns has like a haymaker's chance, and that's it. Catching Matsumoto coming in and landing the perfect shot. Other than that, if he doesn't catch it, and every minute that goes on, I favor Matsumoto more as John slows down, his power starts to zap. I expect Matsumoto style on him. I expect we might get like he wins the first round. He puts up a 10-8 round in the second. He's putting up another 10-8 round in the third. But I don't think the scorecard's going to matter because I think he's going to finish him with strikes late. Give me Matsumoto to pick up the biggest one of his career. Give me him by third round TKO.
Yeah, I kind of alluded to this one during the intro. Just if you are the type that still sees upside, still sees the potential in Miles Johns, if you're the type that says, he's still just 31. His athleticism, his raw skills don't seem to have eroded yet. It's just a matter of putting it together, following the right game plan, wrestling when appropriate. This might be the kind of fight that is going to be frustrating to you. And by the way, the people I just described there, that I guess that might be Johns's teammates and immediate family. I don't know, like who hasn't jumped off the bandwagon yet, but I see this as one where Johns has routes, if not to an obvious upset, at least to make this one maddeningly close. If I knew that he would actually commit to trying to take Matsumoto down, especially early, I could see this being a close fight. I could see Johns taking Matsumoto down successfully. And if he was able to sock away the first round that way without wearing himself out, all of a sudden we've got a real interesting fight on our hands. I don't trust him to do that. I don't know if Matsumoto's going to run him over quite as badly as, you seem to be calling for, although it wouldn't shock me. But again, whether Matsumoto racks up 2 10-8 rounds or just 2-10-9 rounds, if I don't have much faith that Johns is going to fight to his best advantage or be in a position to turn this fight around on a dime in the third round, then it all adds up to kind of the same thing. So I'm going with Matsumoto by decision here, but if I were a Miles Johns backer, I think this would be a scream at the TV fight. We head next to the featherweight division, where Andre Fili will face Christian Rodriguez. Fili, the 35-year-old Californian, is 24-12 with 1 no contest overall. He is 12-11 with 1 no contest in the UFC. He has alternated losses and wins with a single no contest thrown in there for something like his last 11 or 12 fights straight. He's coming in off a loss. He got guillotined in the first round by Melquizael Costa at UFC Macau back in February. So he is due to get back in the win column. If the pattern holds, we'll see if it happens. The man with something to say about it will be C-Rod. 27-year-old Wisconsinite is 12-3 overall, 5-3 in the UFC. He's also coming in off a loss. He's also coming in off a loss to Melquizael Costa. So these guys will have something to talk about either before or after the fight. He fought him at UFC on ESPN Moreno versus Erceg back in March. By the standards of UFC Vegas 109, this is a pretty close line, but Rodriguez is minus 250, Fili plus 200. Keith, we know what Christian Rodriguez is good for, whether at 135 or 145. His last 4 wins, I mean, they're not in a row. He's lost a couple in between, but his last 4 wins, Raul Rosas Jr., Cameron Simon, Isaac Dolgarian, Austin Bashi. 3 of those 4 guys, he handed them their first career loss. Simon had already lost some, but all 4 of them more highly regarded prospects than him. I don't know what the guy needs to do to get some love, but he is at least a comfortable favorite here. Do you think he gets it done, or does Fili have it in him to shock the world?
Yeah, which is like UFC. What the hell? Like, you have a theme going. Like, go with that. Like, why are you put against a guy who's been in the UFC like 100 fights? And I know Andre Fili's actually younger than you think because he's been in the UFC so long, but still, like, come on, man. Like, go just have him be the prospect killer, like the hype killer or something like that. But Andre Fili is a guy you really don't even know when you get. He's so inconsistent, but on the feet, he's a technical striker. He flows back and forth with orthodox and southpaw. He's a counter striker. He's got some quick hands. He works best from distance, behind a jab. Used a lot of movements, good footwork to keep his distance. He'll follow with straight shots to keeping his opponent honest on the outside. He likes feedback counters. When pressed forward, when he's the one pressing forward, he doesn't cut the cage off well. We saw that in his last fight. He does have some power. He still has some as he's getting older. He throws a lot of kicks. He loves that like Robert Whitaker, duck one side, kick the high kick on the other side thing. He looks for a lot of takedowns. And at one point, he was getting really good at wrestling. But recently, I think his wrestling's overrated. He will shoot a lot. And instead of driving through the hips, he'll shoot into the clinch and doesn't drive through the hips. And then he doesn't get the takedown. If he does get the fight to the ground, he needs to improve his top control. He's never been much of a submission threat. If he's taken on, he struggles to get off his own back. Go back like Sadiq Youssef and Bryce Mitchell. They took him down and held him down for really long periods of the fight. He's eaten a lot of punches too, which gets me concerned for his durability. I mean, he was knocked out by Joe Anderson Brito and Nathaniel Wood. He was not like Dan Ige destroyed him. So those are things that I'm a little worried about. Rodriguez, he's a very good athlete. Like that's something that jumps out to me. On the feet, he's a high output boxer. He's a pressure striker. That's why he like hated it going against someone like Julian Russell. He's not going to be able to pressure. He's going to be on you and forcing you on your back foot. He kind of struggled to not only not handle the pressure, but get inside into Rosa. But that was a while ago. He's good at slipping or ripping, slipping into range, landing, and getting back out. He fights by your high guard defense. Nice crisp jab. I'd say his plus power. I mean, his overhand right hurt Stephen Pierce several times. Good step in elbows. Does a lot of body work, which is really fun to watch. He's a good offensive wrestler. He gets taken down more than I'd like for a guy whose game plan is to wrestle a lot. But to his credit, he's hard to hold down, and a lot of it's just getting people to work. He he likes to close the distance, and he's been looking for a lot of like foot sweeps. But when he's taken down, he just wants you to work. Like he's Granby rolling, he's trying to escape. When he's on top, he needs to improve his top control. He has like 4 subs. He loves his guillotine. He's got a good anaconda. He subbed Josh Weems with the anaconda. I think he's got 4 or 5 subs on his record. Though he's not this like jiu-jitsu master. He was subbed by Julian Arosa. And it's funny, he presses the action, and that's his thing, but he's gassed himself out in the past. But then his cardio looked great against Austin Bashi. So I'm not really sure. So I think the line is off. I think the line should be much closer because you really don't know what you're going to get with really either guy, but especially Fili. I mean, he's so inconsistent. It's hard to know what he's going to bring. I'm gonna go with Rodriguez. I think both guys will have their moments. I think it's gonna be really close. I think Rodriguez is gonna land some takedowns of his own. I think that's gonna be different in really close rounds. Give me Rodriguez by split decision.
Yeah, I can't find much to pick at there. The thing, and I said it almost half jokingly, but you seem to pick it up there. Rodriguez, in the middle of knocking off Raul Rosas, Isaac Dolgarian, Austin Bashi, he is finally, I think, starting to get some recognition in his own right. He's still just 27 years old. And I was a little concerned about him at 145 because I wondered if he was big enough. Because even at 135, like, he was kind of visibly smaller than Raul Rosas. But thus far, I don't think it's really cost him. He's lost a couple fights at featherweight, but it's not because he was smaller. It's just he wasn't the better man on that night. I'm with you on Fili in that it's hard to pick what version of him you're going to get. And his wrestling in particular, it's been kind of a wild roller coaster ride. Because if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I would have said, yeah, his wrestling's actually pretty good, but he never uses it. Then he used it for 2 or 3 fights in a row. And I think and definitely the UFC commentators kind of swung the other way and was like, he's a great wrestler. And I don't think he's a great wrestler either. I think he's an adequate wrestler, especially when he mixes it in and has the element of surprise. He's not a guy that can go 3 yards in a cloud of dust with his wrestling. Like, even if you know it's coming, you can't stop it. I think he's most effective when he mixes it in. And sometimes that's the difference between winning and losing for him. I am concerned about the amount of punishment he's taken and what it's doing to his durability. You alluded to the fact that it's kind of surprising that he's just barely 35. It feels like he's been in the UFC for a million years. But I think it's an old 35 in terms of where I think that's probably going to show here. Give me Rodriguez to win a dominant decision where he's faster than Fili. He's throwing more volume. He's throwing better in combination. If Fili does try to take Rodriguez down, I don't think there's a guarantee he gets it there. I just kind of see a one-sided drubbing of a decision here. Give me Rodriguez, unanimous decision, all 3 rounds. Third from the top at UFC Vegas 109 is a strawweight matchup between Iasmin Lucindo and Angela Hill. Lucindo, the 23-year-old Brazilian, is 17-6 overall. She's 4-2 in the UFC. She's coming in off a loss. She fought most recently at UFC 313 back in March, where she dropped a unanimous decision to Amanda Lemos. That snapped a 4-fight win streak for her. She'll be looking to start up a new win streak, reaffirm her position as a current fringe contender, future maybe serious contender in this division. And in order to do so, she will need to get past the eternal and ultimate gatekeeper of that division in the form of Hill. 40-year-old Marylander by way of San Diego, 18-14 overall, 13-14 across 2 separate stints in the UFC. Since returning as the outgoing Invicta strawweight champ, she is an even 12-12 in the octagon. She's coming in off a win. She fought at UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Rodriguez back in February, winning a split decision over Ketlin Souza. So past her 40th birthday, she is looking to prove that she is still a factor in this division and at the very least can keep separating the wheat from the chaff. As I mentioned on the intro, this is the closest line on the entire card. Lucindo minus 190, Hill plus 150. Offhand, I don't know if this is the biggest age gap ever in a UFC fight. It's got to be close. It's got to be up there with like Casey O'Neill versus Roxanne Modafferi type things. You know, Lucindo just turned 23. Hill is 40. It's a 17, almost 17 and a half year age difference. They're going to throw the stats up on the screen. I understand why they are what they are. And in light of that, I'm actually kind of surprised the line isn't wider on this one. You know, Lucindo was, if Lucindo had gotten past Amanda Lemos, she was going to be in the title picture. That's just, the division is so starved for new contenders, but she got turned back, and I still feel the same about her that I did before. Amanda Lemos is a really good fighter. Amanda Lemos is a big, really physically strong strawweight, and that plays well against what Lucindo's game is kind of built around right now. She's not huge for the division. She's kind of that short, stocky ball of muscle. She fights like it. You know, like a lot of her strikes, like especially her punches, are more short, curvy hook type things. Here's the thing. Angela Hill is as known a quantity as there is in the UFC period, but certainly in the strawweight division. Like, she is good at the same things she was good at 8 years ago. She's bad at the same things she was bad at 8 years ago. And one thing that's always been Hill's problem is she's always had kind of lousy takedown defense, even if she's good at defending herself on the ground. But the thing is, not just anybody can take advantage of Hill's takedown defense. Even now, at age 40, if your plan to get Hill to the ground is to run at her on straight lines, she's going to chew you up. You know, going back as far as just her handling Ariane Carnelosi like 5 or 6 years ago. Conventional wisdom would have said Carnelosi, as again, a little chunk of muscle, should be able to get in on Hill's hips, take her down, and at least win a boring fight just by taking her down in 3 rounds and staying busy on top. But no, if you got to run straight at Hill without any setups, she does have good enough footwork and good enough volume and, you know, enough snap on her punches to make your life miserable. And she's still capable of taking down younger, fresher, more athletic fighters with that approach. I mean, look at her fights with people like Denise Gomez and even Lupe Godinez. Lupe Godinez, you would have thought, would run an absolute clinic on Hill. But
Ben, why you gotta do that to me?
That was a that was a scream at the TV fight right there.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm not picking it. Actually, maybe I am picking it.
Whoa.
I mean, there's every possibility. Well, I've been on the fence about this particular fight basically all week. My brain tells me that even if she doesn't have great entries, even if she's not great at cutting off the cage, Lucindo's going to find a way to get inside on Hill and either take her down or, you know, get inside Hill's kicking range and clock her with punches. She's done that to most of her opponents. But I could just see this one being another one where by the end of the second round, Hill is barely sweating, like her afro is still perfect, and Lucindo looks like she fell out of a tree just because she's run into Hill's jab like 50 times. Give me Hill by split decision. And I may not even agree, I may not even agree with the decision when it's called out, but I know Angela Hill well enough to know that, again, like she tends to get in a lot of close decisions where the individual rounds are tough to score, or at least tough for the judges to score. But yeah, give me Hill to get the upset here. even if I don't agree with it, I think she's going to frustrate Lucindo. Outlander, 2 rounds out of 3, stay upright, kick her legs, give her teeps. I don't think the clinch is necessarily going to be safe harbor for Lucindo either. Hill tends to stay busy and stay dangerous there, even against people like Loma Lubumi. Yeah, give me Hill to win the split decision here.
I love how the closest line, the favorite, is still 2-1 favorite. Dude, we've broken down Angela Hill fights, God knows how many times. And the funny thing, and I'm not going to do what I've done to other people, say I'm not breaking it down anymore, because you have to break down her skills, because somehow she was a journeyman, or not even going to say journeyman, she was like a low-level UFC talent for a long time. And now she's 40 years old, and she's probably better than she ever was. Or I don't know if her striking is better than it was, but her she's more well-rounded than she ever was. On the feet,
she's won 5 of her last 7 fights in the last 3 years.
Yeah, there you go. That's way better than she ever had before.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not even like could the younger one beat her? Did the younger one better striker? Maybe, but her ground game has come along well, and her fight IQ has come along well. I mean, on the feet,
Keith,
still
real quick, Keith.
Good.
This is the 18th Angela Hill fight that we have previewed together. The first one was her versus Yan Xiaonan back at UFC 238.
We're capping it at 20.
Okay. Either she retires or we do.
Yeah. Knowing her, it'll probably be us for a long time. I mean, Adam Duffy might be retired before she is. So, I mean, she's a volume striker on the feet. She works best from distance. She's, using some good footwork, cutting angles. She doesn't want to be pressured. Though she did fight Ketla Souza much different. She came out very aggressive against Ketla Souza. She's an outfighter. She has a good jab. She's got a good check left hook. She will work the body. But she's a point fighter. She's never been like a hard hitter. She will slip and rip a little bit. She's good at sliding her. That's one thing that's actually improved a lot over the years. Her head movement has gotten better. She slides her head off the center line a lot better. Her slip right hand has always, for years, kind of been one of her best punches. She will lunge sometimes into shots, which leave her to be countered. She's best with it. She's either all the way in the clinch, or all the way out, landing from distance. She'll throw some stupid spinning attacks, which is being that she's 40 years old. Like there's a certain age, like you don't do spinning attacks anymore. She has. I mean, I mentioned that she has really improved in the clinch. Where it used to be just touch Angela Hill, grab her, and she's in trouble. And now she's grinding and winning those positions. And she beat up Emily Dakute in the clinch. She battered Denise Gomes in the clinch. She's got really good at framing and throwing knees inside. Her offensive grappling have come really along well, as she's got, I shouldn't say well, it's not a strength, but greatly improved. I mean, she can sneak and take downs, as you mentioned. She out-wrestled Denise Gomez. She out-wrestled Ketla Souza. She subbed Luana Pinheiro. These are all recent. Now, she is I still would categorize her as a weak defensive wrestler. I mean, there's a long list of women that have taken her down, but she's improved drastically on her ability to get back up and frustrate people, because the game plan is like, well, I'm just going to wrestle Angela Hill. And it's like, no, you can't. I'm going to get back up. Now, her sub defense has always been pretty good. I mean, I always go back to like the Mackenzie Durham, where she was fighting off subs against Mackenzie Durham, which is pretty impressive. And she's shown recently that she has some dog in her. When times have been tough, where she would have bailed before, she finding a way to fight through it. Now, she slowed down in her last fight, but I think that's because of her approach, where she came out so aggressive. Lucindo, I mean, she's only 23, so you're going to love that. And she got a lot of experience for a young fighter. UFC experience, but also just overall just number. I've said this before. She reminded me of Claudia Gadelha. Now, Claudia Gadelha was a stylistic nightmare for Angela Hill, but I'm not saying she is Claudia Gadelha, but that style. She's a pocket boxer with some fast hands, constantly throwing combos. She gets inside and she throws hard hooks. Though she can be very loopy, She cuts angles, which kind of sets up her openings. She has great power. She has 8 TKOs. I mean, she's still young. She's not even in those, power years. She'll throw some meaningless attacks. I don't mind her doing it more than Angela Hill. She's super durable. She made some big shots from Iasmin Haragi and just kept moving forward. She will also close the distance and grind and clinch. It's something we might get a lot in this fight, both women clinching. Her wrestling has been super consistent. It looks great on one fight and terrible on others. I mean, she has, at her best, she has some fast entries. She also gets some leg sweeps, but against Lemos, I was like almost she didn't understand the over-under battles. But she kept giving Lemos the dominant position, didn't fight her back in. Her takedown defense has also been inconsistent. On top, she does have good control. She works to go to a better position. She has ground and pound. She has 3 subs on her record. But she was struggled when she was put on her back against Lemos, and she's been sub twice herself. So I'm glad that you were such on the fence on this fight, because I am too. I think the line should be even closer. I've also flip-flopped. Lucindo has the higher upside, obviously, at this point, even though Hill's never looked better. Obviously, if someone's fighting for the title the next 2 years, it'd be Lucindo, not Hill. The problem is she looks great one fight and looks not so great the other fights. I actually think the clinch battle might favor Hill. And she might win the scrambles suddenly. Hill, I'm with you, dude. I'm going back-to-back split. I'm going split decision, too. I want to say Hill, who is the queen of losing split decisions, is going to get a split decision win. We have a unanimous upset pick. Give me Hill by split decision.
That brings us to the co-main event of UFC on ESPN 72. A men's bantamweight now matchup between normally flyweight Steve Erceg and Ode Osbourne. Erceg, the 30-year-old from Western Australia, is 12-4 overall. He is 3-3 in the UFC. That's the good news. The bad news is that his UFC run has been like an inning of baseball, 3 up, 3 down. He kind of shocked the promotion, took the division by storm, winning his first 3 fights in pretty dominant fashion, getting a title shot against Alexandre Pantoja at UFC 301 last May. Since then, it has been rougher sledding as he's leveled up to kind of the next tier of competition. He came up short against Pantoja, even though he gave him a very, very close fight, but then got knocked out by Kai Kara France in his next outing. And in his most recent appearance back in March, came out on the wrong end of a 5-round decision in the headliner of UFC on ESPN 64 against former champ Brandon Moreno. Erceg had been scheduled to take on Alex Perez on Saturday. Perez dropped off the card about 3 weeks ago. In stepped Hyun-Sung Park. Park got scraped off the card 2 weeks ago to headline against Tatsuro Taira last week. So third time is the charm. In steps Ode Osbourne, and in recognition of the extremely short notice, this one is being moved up to 135 pounds, even though both gentlemen habitually compete at 125. Osbourne, 33-year-old Wisconsinite, 13-8 with 1 no contest overall, 5-6 since joining the UFC out of season 3 of Dana White's Contender Series. He is coming in off a win. He fought back in April at UFC on ESPN, Emmett versus Murphy, where he knocked out Luis Gurul in the second round. That snapped a 3-fight losing streak for him, the first losing streak of his entire career, so he would like to keep the good momentum coming. He is not favored to get that done, as Erceg is minus 400, Osbourne plus 300 as your underdog. Keith, I'm going to flip this to you first, but is there any real surprise to Steve Erceg, or do we just now know that he's better than those first 3 guys, kind of topping out with Matt Schnell, and worse than the next 3, all of whom were top 5 opponents? Like, here, buy or sell. Steve Erceg fights for a UFC title again before it's all done.
Oh. Sell. But
I think I'm with you.
You know what? How old is he?
30.
Yeah, so if he was younger, I'd go by just because of the division, how shallow the division is. So that had like more. If he was like, by being that he's 30, how long can he stay at flyweight too?
And honestly, when it was the Alex Perez matchup, that was the time to strike while the iron was hot. Because if he beats Perez, he's got kind of a leg up in that he's only fought Pantoja once, and he actually kind of took him to the wire. Like like it would be more sellable than Moreno Pantoja 4 or Royval Pantoja 17 or whatever they're on. But yeah.
So I'll say this. I mean, Erceg went from arguably winning the UFC flyweight title to being, in this extremely close fight to now being in extreme need to get a win. It feels very similar to Dominic Reyes. And I'll say this. I scored it for Reyes over Jones. I scored it for Erceg over Pantoja. And you know how big of a fan I am of Pantoja. He's obviously a big flyweight, moving up to bantamweight. I actually think because he was scheduled to fight, this hurts him more. Like he was going to make flyweight, and obviously Osbourne is a big flyweight himself. So having cut weight on very short notice, I think would have helped Erceg more to have Osbourne drained. Erceg he's a good boxer, very composed on the feet. He's got fast hand, crisp jab, likes to get in the pocket and throw down a little bit, which I think is actually a negative for him because he's really good from distance. He's a good distance striker. He has good power. I love the step and elbows he was hitting Pantoja with in their fight. Defense does need to improve, and that's what is an issue with him and why he struggled. He stands too tall. He's very hittable. It doesn't move his head for a high level guy. Now, I don't, other than the Cara France one, I don't think he looked bad. I mean, I think I said I thought he beat Pantoja and he had moments against Moreno. So he has a big kicking game. He will throw the kicks without a setup, and he didn't throw him enough against Moreno, which was a problem. Like his output didn't match Moreno's output, which was a big thing. He refused to lead the dance in that fight, which I thought was poor fight IQ. He's a decent wrestler. I mean, go back to like David DeRoy. He took him down 3 times. He didn't try to wrestle Moreno enough. He's an underrated grappler. If he gets the fight down, he's got some really good BJJ. He's got 6 submissions on his win. Ode, I definitely feel better about him at 135. Taking this fight than if he cut all the way down, as I already mentioned. Southpaw, he's long and lanky. He likes to work from distance. He's technically sound. He's got some nice output on the feet, good hand speed, accurate, explosive. He attacks with combos. His check right hook is really good from the southpaw stance. His fade back left counter is really good too. He has some power, and I think he'll generate at 135. He'll also throw a lot of spinning attacks. Or he'll just go airborne for some reason. I mean, I always bring it up. It's a long time ago, but Tyson Nam made a pay for that. He uses his long legs for teep kicks and calf kicks, but he plants so heavily that he's open to like hard counter kicks to his legs. He relies a lot on head movement, and which is why Manel Kopp was able to time, like he timed it perfectly and knocked him out because he kept his hands low. Didn't have to get by that first defense. He can wrestle a little bit. I go back to like the Charles Johnson fight, which is a win that aged well. He wrestled to get that win, but I don't think he's as good as a wrestler as they credit with him, or at least his wrestling's inconsistent. I say, if he gets to the fight to ground, I like his ground and pound. He has 4 subs on his record. He's a weak at defensive wrestler, and he struggles to get back up. I mean, I go back to Ronaldo Rodriguez fight. He struggled to get off the bottom of that. He was quickly subbed by I'm going to butcher his first name, but Jafel Afilo and Asu Amabayev both subbed him. Obviously, Amabayev is a really special fighter, but he's been knocked out a few times in the UFC, which makes you wonder. Also, he's like faded in fights when things got hard, so I wonder if he's a front runner. And I mean, go back to like Ronaldo Rodriguez. He gassed a little bit of that fight. So as far as prediction, Osbourne has shown glimpses of greatness, but every time he reaches this level, he's really, not only has he lost, he's got destroyed. Is Erceg this level guy that we see? Is he a top 5 guy? I think so. I think he is. So I think Osbourne gets destroyed again. I think Erceg stops the entries from Osbourne. I think Osbourne throws some kicks, and he's met with punches from Erceg, who's crowding when he's kicking, landing some boxing, picks up the pace more than he did in Moreno. I think he hurts Osbourne several times, and then I think Erceg finishes in the second. Give me Erceg by second round TKO.
Yeah, I like the breakdown there. I've gone from obviously on any card that I have to talk about Uros Medic. Anyone else on the card is a distant second for how badly I misjudged him ahead of their UFC debut. But I definitely had the wrong read on Erceg. Yeah, I watched his fights in Eternal MMA or Hex Fight series in Australia, and I thought, okay, this is a guy that, I mean, he might stick around the UFC, but he's going to kind of top out as a 500 fighter. And while he is technically a 500 fighter in the UFC right now, it's only because he's faced like top 3 opposition in his last 3 fights. He's more athletic than the regional tape made it look. And the person I've compared him to before and will again, it's the Kenny Florian thing where he's kind of tall, gawky, looks a little nerdy, looks almost like a little bit bird-chested, and it belies the fact that he's actually kind of fluid and quick and has better power on his strikes than you would expect. Definitely very capable of taking care of himself on the ground. Yeah, Erceg has been a fun addition to the division, and so is Osbourne for that matter, just fun in a different way. I like how you pointed out that Osbourne looks brilliant in flashes, and offensively he really does have all the weapons, but it is a combination of not always putting those weapons together well. Like sometimes you mentioned sometimes his wrestling looks good, sometimes it doesn't look good, sometimes it just disappears entirely. And then the other problem is that he is just really susceptible to his opponent's offense. Someone that I could compare it to, someone like Julian Erosa, where Erosa has all the offensive weapons, but whatever his opponent does well offensively, you're going to get a chance to flex it against Ode Osbourne. It's not bad that he lost to Asu Almabayev. As you mentioned, Almabayev is a top 10 fighter himself, and it could very well be fighting for a title within the next year. But being Asu Almabayev's only finish in the UFC isn't a great look, because if there's a problem with Almabayev, it's that he's been really conservative, has a really conservative approach, and hasn't really gone for the finish unless there's been an obvious opportunity. I could see Osbourne having his moments here against Erceg, but Erceg's going to hit Osbourne. He's going to hit him early. He's going to hit him often. If Osbourne tries to take Erceg down, I'm not even sure if he gets it, but even if he does, I think they're probably about equal in scrambles and in transition. And it's not really Osbourne's way to just get a clean double leg and park in Erceg's guard for 3 minutes and, you know, kind of like run time off the clock, do a little bits of damage. That's not really his thing. If he tries to take Erceg down or vice versa, it's probably going to turn into a scramble. And I don't think either guy has a big advantage there. But like positionally, but if somebody really takes over there, it's more likely Erceg taking Osbourne's back in a flash, and all of a sudden we have another rear naked choke loss. So this should be a really fun one for as long as it lasts. But once one fighter starts rolling downhill on the other, I'm almost dead certain it's going to be Erceg. Give me Erceg by second round submission here. With that, we come to the main event of UFC Vegas 109, a middleweight clash between Roman Dolidze and Anthony Hernandez. Dolidze, the 37-year-old Georgian by way of Las Vegas, is 15-3 overall. He is 9-3 in the UFC. He's on a 3-fight win streak, dating back a little over a year. He fought most recently back in March in the headliner of UFC Fight Night 254, where he picked up a unanimous decision over Marvin Vettori. He will look to make it 4 in a row and mint himself a at least fringe challenger for the title against Hernandez, who is looking to do the exact same thing. 31-year-old from Northern California is 14-2 with 1 no contest overall. He is 8-2 since joining the UFC as a veteran of the second season of Dana White's Contender Series and as the outgoing LFA middleweight champ. Since getting knocked out in 39 seconds by Kevin Holland a little over 5 years ago, he has rattled off 7 straight wins over Rodolfo Vieira in kind of an eye-opening upset, then Josh Fremd, Marc-Andre Barrios, Edmund Shabazian, Roman Kopolov, Michel Pereira, and in his most recent performance back in February, a unanimous decision over Brendan Allen in a rematch of their fight in LFA 7 or 8 years ago. So Hernandez, 7 straight wins, the longest such streak in the division for anyone other than your champ. He'll look to make it 8 straight, certify himself a title challenger sooner rather than later. And Keith, I've got some good news for you. I'm not going to say we're the only people that saw any upside in Anthony Hernandez, but we were among so-called pundits, people that preview this stuff for a living, some of the earlier people to get on this train. Yeah. The world has caught up with us.
Nice.
Anthony Hernandez minus 350.
Wow.
Roman Dolidze plus 280.
And I'm on the Dolidze bandwagon.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, Dolidze is a guy that obviously he came to the UFC to pretty modest expectations. He was already 32. At the time of his UFC debut, he hadn't fought in MMA at all in like a year and a half. All of his MMA experience was in low-level shows in Ukraine. Like, he's from Georgia, but he had most of his early MMA career in Ukraine, then relocated to the US. But the most notable thing on his resume was that he had made the qualifiers for Abu Dhabi and got eliminated in the first round, at Abu Dhabi Submission Wrestling World Championship. That was it. I figured, okay, this is a fun COVID year signing, but he's not going to go anywhere. I've had the wrong take on this guy a couple of times at this point. I thought he would be a 500 fighter at 205. I thought it was silly for him to drop to 185, considering he was like 33 or 34 at the time and a huge chunk of muscle. I was wrong on both counts. He has dropped to 185. He has gradually improved. His gas tank is not an issue. I mean, he's lost fights at 185 as well as 205, but in no case was it really because he gassed out. Just he got beat those nights. He just turned 37. His athleticism shows no particular signs of trailing off. His durability, I mean, it might be slipping slightly, but the wheels aren't falling off the wagon. He is a legit contender in this division that I would not have predicted. Having said all that, Anthony Hernandez is, he's a nightmare. And kind of like people that we've talked about in our previews before, kind of like Merab Dvalishvili, kind of like Bilal Muhammad, even if his approach isn't the same as those guys, he's somebody that's going to be even more of a nightmare for as long as he's in 5-round fights. He doesn't look like a very big middleweight. He looks fit and athletic, but he's not ripped. Him at the face-offs against Roman Dolidze, anybody who didn't know the sport would assume that Dolidze was the massive favorite, but he's a good striker. He's quicker, more athletic, more fluid than I thought he was. He's a very good grappler. Used to be more of a grappler and scrambler, opportunistic guy than a positionally sound, powerful wrestler. But I think he's shoring that up a little bit. I think he's getting more confident on the ground, more confident in his ability to win fights in a bunch of different positions. Like, he's on a 7-fight win streak and he keeps improving from fight to fight. I think Dolidze is running into this guy at just the wrong time, because Dolidze is still improving as well. And if he had a different route, I could see Dolidze like sneaking into a title shot before Hernandez just from running into the right people at the right time. But he's running it into Hernandez now. And even though Dolidze has shown that he does have 5-round cardio if he needs it, He doesn't have Anthony Hernandez 5-round cardio. I think this is competitive for the first 2 rounds, and I think Hernandez is going to start rolling downhill on him around the middle of round 3. I'm tempted to say Dolidze makes it to the final horn. Again, he's shown himself to be super tough, actually not that much of a front runner. Even the fights he's lost, he's been trying to win it like right up to the end. But I do think Hernandez is going to kind of, if not break him, at least just overwhelm him as the fight goes along. Give me Hernandez by 5th round submission. And I wouldn't be surprised if my pick is right. I wouldn't be surprised if round 4 is like a 10-8 type deal. I think this is going to be a showcase for Hernandez, and maybe he even beats Dolidze badly enough to jump the line a little bit in that title picture.
Yeah, this is a really fun main event for a fight night card. I'm glad. I would really like to see Hernandez get on like a pay-per-view. Get some more clout, but getting fight night main event. Dolidze is tough. It's funny based on like the physique, what we've seen them do. Like Dolidze's had spectacular finishes and stuff. When you told me one was gonna be a massive hit, that's why I thought Dolidze. Now, if you told me it was a close line and one was negative 150, I'm like, oh man, maybe Hernandez is the favorite. That's why I was so messed up on it. But I kind of felt this way. Like I'm kind of giving my prediction already, but anybody knows this fight knew which way I was going to go. But I'll start with Dolidze anyways. What his skill set is, and I like Dolidze. I think he's good. He's kind of grown on me, especially his striking has really come along. I mean, obviously he's a really big guy. He'll be Hernandez is like I think Hernandez is one of those guys. He's bigger than he looks, but Dolidze is what he is. Like he's huge. His striking is really greatly improved. Nice tight power strikes. Good left hook. He's got a nice overhand right. Obviously, he has power. I mean, just look how he's built. Hard calf kicks. He's one of the fighters that actually checks leg kicks. He will close the distance and grind in the clinch, and that's because he's so physically strong. He can control guys. He'll do damage in the clinch. He batters opponents with knees. He's a good wrestler. Definitely more of a grappler. Getting a scramble going. He's very good. He has a submission threat. I mean, go back to like Jack Hermanson fight. That was obviously the best performance of his career. He had this incredible calf slicer on Jack Hermanson, who's a really good grappler himself. I mean, I know that was a long time ago.
Well, calf slicer to boxing him out from back mount, like he had him in like the Sting Scorpion Deathlock or something. It was ridiculous finish.
Like, yeah. Something you see in like a WF move. Yeah, good. You mentioned mean ground and pound, and cardio. Is still slightly an issue, but not like it used to be, and it's completely overrated when they talk about he's gassing. You expect it based on how big he is. Hernandez is one of my favorite fighters. He isn't a great athlete, but he just makes up for just being this dog. He refuses to take a step back, nonstop pressure. His whole game is set around just bring in volume and then upping it as the fight goes on. He'll get in the pocket. He'll brawl a little bit. He'll throw hard. He just wants you to throw hard back, and he trusts his chin and get you to like get those spurts because he don't think you can keep it going. He does hit harder than he gets credited for. He's a very solid wrestler. Good entries. And he's not your Josh Koscheck blow through your hips. Great. Look how incredible. He's more of that Marab type where he's constantly wrestling. It's not even about getting the takedown. It's about constantly having you work. In the 4th, 5th attempt, he'll get you down. And you've used all this more energy than if I just took you down right away. So he has like that Marab style. He thinks position over submission, though he is a very good submission artist. I mean, he subbed Hadaf over here. Now, obviously, most of that was because he was gassed, but he almost subbed him a bunch of times. And but gassing a guy out is part of his game. He is like a front headlock expert. He loves guillotines and anacondas. He's hard to sub himself. You go back to the Duffy fight. Go back to the Brandon Allen fight. There's some great exchange of that, and Brandon Allen's a good grappler, and he couldn't catch him. If he wants to win a UFC title, he does. I think he does need to improve his takedown defense, though he is hard to hold down. So sometimes it might actually be a good thing he gets taken down because he'll work back to his feet, and his opponent started a lot of energy to take him down. Cardio is a weapon of his. Obviously, as the fight goes on, he just gets stronger and builds, and he's mentally strong. And that's what I thought won him the fight against Brendan Allen. He doesn't get worried if things start off bad. It started off bad against Allen. It started off bad against. Pereira started off bad with him too, and he knows at the end, he's going to be the one winning. He's the one going to be working you. So Hernandez' run up the rankings reminds me of a lot of like Bilal Muhammad's. That worked great for Bilal Muhammad. Not the guy that they wanted, not the guy that got a lot of limelight, but he just keeps knocking people off. We have like almost the exact same read of what's going to happen early. I expect Dolidze to do well early. I think he might win the first round, and he might even win the second round. But Hernandez is going to stay in his face. He's going to take him down. He's not going to get frustrated when he doesn't get him down the first time or the second time, or if he gets taken down, he's not going to get frustrated. He's going to press the action the entire fight. I don't think Dolidze's gas tank is an issue against a normal fighter, against a normal UFC fighter. Like, I can jump in my car and I can drive 90 down the highway and my engine's not going to explode. My car can't drive 140 down the highway, and that's what's going to happen to it. You got to drive 140 because that's how Hernandez is going to be, and eventually his gas tank's going to fail him. I expect to be like some exchange, like Hernandez gets him down, he's trying to work him on, he's beating him up, he gasses him more, gets more, and then I just expect to see Hernandez on top, maybe in mount, and just laying down shots, and maybe he's on back mount or something like that. Give me Hernandez by 4th round TKO from ground and pound.
And there you have it, the Sherdog Radio Network preview for UFC on ESPN 72, Dolidze versus Hernandez, also known as UFC Vegas 109. I've been Ben, he has been Keith. If this is your first time watching or listening to one of our previews, first of all, thank you. We hope you enjoyed it. We do our best to bring a mix of in-depth analysis and occasional humorous or historic asides that we think is pretty unique in this space. Please do like, subscribe. None of those things cost you a thing. They make our bosses happy. They allow us to keep bringing you this content free of charge. Drop us a comment. Keith and I both man the comment section. We'd love to hear your take on these fights. On a card with lines this wide, tough to find upset value, but if you think we left any money on the table, let us know, because if you're right and we're wrong, we will definitely give you your flowers on the recap. You just need to come collect them. We are live on the Sherdog YouTube page right after the main event. Keith takes the captain's chair. We'll talk about all 11 of these fights in reverse order, from the headliner all the way down to the curtain jerker, talking about what was good, what was bad, what was surprising, what was controversial. There's always something. Talking about what's next for some of the notable winners as well as losers, and talking with you. The live chat is open that whole time, so we're taking your questions, your comments, and your hot takes in real time. We have a growing community of friends that hang out with us after the fights, and we'd love for you to be part of it. Between now and then, thank you once again for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and by all means, enjoy these fights.